My fellow citizens, peace be unto you, and peace be unto the world. I do not think most Americans realize what a dangerous period of time we are living in. The Middle East is about to bring changes to the world no one anticipated. Violence is escalating throughout the Middle East countries on a scale experts never thought possible. Everybody seems to be on edge as morality, decency, and virtue is downtrodden by the dissenting spirit that is forcing itself upon the world. We are watching shadows of psychological war surfacing in the world, and there seem to be no answers to all the world's disorders. What is extremely frightening to me is the scripture that says, "They that lift up the sword shall perish by the sword." The other side of the coin is the comforting scripture that says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall have peace." I mention this because if America keeps feeding the war machine in the world, it may become our downfall. Just recently there is word we are now sending troops to Africa, which will add more strain on our already fractured economy. The great empire of Egypt of the past fell because it kept investing in foreign wars. This very well could become the United States in the future. How often do we hear history repeats itself? Perhaps this is one historical lesson our lawmakers should pay attention to. War is not necessary, but peace is, if our civilization is to survive. Peace is missing today in the world and from our political scene. Scarcely anybody talks about peace. You would think the religious community would be talking about peace, but they are so fixated on the end times, they see only destruction in the future. The news media and politics today hardly promote peace, for they are both filled with intended violence and the air of war. Their constant ventures are with argument, opinion, prude, the obnoxious, indecency, indifference, malice, contention, false accusations, and contempt for the American way of life. This is a hard pill to swallow when the average or common citizen is only interested in making an honest living and living peacefully. When journalists and politicians continue to spew the violent tone of dissension in America, and we leave war unattended in the Middle East nations, it becomes recipe for disaster. There is an alarming connection between the importance given to the news, politics, and the frequency of war. In any era of history where politics is the major interest, war is the major consequence. Since the 1920s and the advent of the news media, the psychological stress is not on the cultivation of a stabilized society, but the influence is civil strife, discord, and war. We see this in complete form today in the news media and politics in this country, and politics and actions throughout the world. War coming to the shores of America is inevitable unless we change our present course in both the news media and American politics. It is important that we begin to see the evil tendencies we seem to be following through war and speech, filling the American homes and minds. Truth and morality are essentials for peace. When these virtues are not present, war becomes the inevitable logic as we are witnessing today. The slaughter and bloodshed in Egypt, Syria, and other Middle East nations today, and American military power, has desensitized the American citizen and given them a false hope that they are untouchable. Again, the scripture given to us by the good Lord is not spoken in vain. They that lift up the sword shall perish by the sword. This applies to all facets of American life, not just physical war. The scripture also says, He suffered under Pontius Pilate. This is a prophecy of the United States if we continue to be an omnipotent state. America will go down in its final days through the power of psychological war of politics unless our country seeks world peace and returns to righteousness, truth, and honor. I can only mention that the survival of our nation, or any nation, is through the subjection of the sovereign and providential hand of God. The return of America to the standards and ideals of living, ethics, of morality, and virtue is the condition of more peaceful times. When America stops fighting wars and stops fighting within, among one another, we shall see our nation prosper, a common purpose ignited, world peace, and faith in the future. This is the American Journal.